Thank you all. Just for the record, this is the Economic Development Commission meeting of Thursday, December 1st, 2022. We're meeting in the second floor conference room at the Old Town Hall, as well as via Zoom. We have in the room Commissioners Beck and Colbert. We have with us Beverly Ballas from the Chamber of Commerce and Gretchen Gerthner, Recording Secretary. Online, I see Commission members Epipore and Rosado and Hockhauser. We also have with us Don Peterson, Commission Extraordinaire, Emeritus, and Bob Stadkowski. So with that, Steve, we can call the meeting to order at 8:36 a.m. and I'll turn things over to you for any introductory remarks.
I guess, well, first I was going to take care of passing the minutes from last meeting.
Yeah, that would be great.
Motion to accept minutes. Second. All right. All those in favor? My hand is up. And looks like
I think we're all in agreement. Good. Okay. And congratulations to you, Steve, on your being reappointed to the Economic Development Commission.
Thank you. Another 5 years. First 5 years certainly went very fast. I appreciate it and enjoy it, and the chance to work with everyone. I'm sorry I'm not there today. My wife tested positive for COVID, so Matt, I feel your pain over there. Doing the responsible thing for quarantine.
She feeling okay?
She's not too bad, just like a cold. So she's well boosted and all that. So just feeling sort of achy. She's actually, we both work from home, so she has a day of training. I could hear her upstairs on her computer. So
terrific. Congratulations. The other main item for today is the meeting schedule for next year, and it did circulate if we wanted to stay with the current first Thursday of the month. I did check to make sure that they didn't fall on any municipal holidays or I think other religious observances. But this would be continuation of our current meeting schedule, which is the first Thursday of each month at 8:30. We previously did meet at 8 a.m. I know that was somewhat helpful for folks that had to commute into the city.
Nice, yeah. But
Willing to go back to the 8 a.m. meeting, or keep it at 8:30 and allow for, I think the town's policy right now or preference is to continue with these hybrid meeting formats to allow folks to tune in remotely if that is convenient. Hopefully all of you, health permitting, will be able to join us in person. But I want to put that out there and see if anyone had any thoughts as to calendar for.
I assume we're going to continue with the Zoom option like for today, which is great to know that I didn't have to worry about like trying to reach out, and I knew I could attend regardless. So I like the 8:30 myself, but I am very happy with 8 o'clock too. If people have to jump into their day, I know I usually have a meeting that starts right at 9:30 after this most Thursdays, but that's never been an issue.
We usually try to move the agenda so we can stay within an hour, but I do appreciate you guys have other work commitments, so just throw it open for any other comments. Alan, I know you have.
I'm good with the way it is, but I'm also like Steve, 8 a.m. would be okay too. So
Ken, you're the guy that has to go into the city quite a bit, so
I'll work with it whatever time you guys choose.
are we good with 8:30?
Yeah, 8:30 is good.
Thumbs up. So okay.
I'm good with 8:30 too.
Do we want to adopt the meeting schedule so I can let the town clerk know that that's our calendar for next year?
Perfect. I think we're good.
A unanimous acclaim. Our esteemed chair is not here, but do we want to consider election of officers, or we can put that off to January. It's up to you guys, really. It's another piece of, logistical, business that we have to attend. That, unlike the meeting schedule, where we have to obviously have a meeting date for January, I don't know that.
I would defer to Kevin, though. I mean, he's just been doing such a great job. He's so well informed. I'd make sure his opinion is represented.
Everyone okay with holding that off till January, or does anyone want to push it today?
It's fine.
January's good.
Okay.
Yep, I'll wait.
So just a few things to report from my end. We did, along with the chamber, have a Small Business Saturday. Been a neighborhood champion for many years now. This program's probably in its 10th or 11th year.
Yeah.
Sponsored nationally by American Express. We get a goodie bag, which is diminished in size over the last 10 years. But, you know, they provide us with some marketing materials and support, as well as some shopping bags, and we usually have a presence on the green on Saturday. We usually take the turn of doing it on Saturday because we know Beverly, a few years back, moved the Santa's Arrival event from Saturday to Sunday. So as not to conflict with Small Business Saturday.
Right.
That was one of the complaints that we received from a few very local merchants downtown. So we did have a presence downtown on Small Business Saturday. My daughters were pressed into service and handed out complimentary shopping bags with some promotional materials, some coupons for stores doing some special sales that day, and we had some refreshments and just a generally good time. There was a number of people walking about. It wasn't like we were overwhelmed with foot traffic, but it was nice to see people out enjoying the day and shopping. We had Santa's Arrival event on Sunday, which I'll let Bev talk about a little later. And upcoming, we have the holiday stroll, which is the 10th year.
Yes, it's a nice one. Yeah.
So it's, this year we have stores participating along the post road from Southport to Grassmere. Traditionally, most of it, in terms of a stroll, in terms of what's walkable in downtown. But we did have some businesses that had a positive experience. Coco and Company in particular down in Southport really had a positive experience with the sidewalk sale event and their participation in that, even though that was concentrated downtown as well. They got a lot of business out of that, so they wanted to take part in this event. And as long as we manage people's expectations going in, we're happy to have them. Same with the 203, which is over on the Bridgeport, Black Rock, Fairfield line. Had for several years participation from outposts. And this year we have again some businesses that are taking part that are not in the traditional downtown core, including Moe's Wine and Spirits, which is doing a special promotion with Earth Animal, raise some funds for their charitable work. So that's Thursday coming up from 6 to 9. We have this year we're working with Connect Fairfield, a group, to do a pre and post event happy hour, if you will, a festive post event party. Selected 2 local restaurants, South Bay.
Great, yeah.
From 5 to 6, so pre-event happy hour at South Bay, and then Island Company is hosting a post-event RA at their facility downtown, and we've got, I think, 28 participants. So a really good turnout. Hopefully the weather will hold. Got great music groups from the local schools. Beverly always, the chamber arranges musical entertainment for the evening, so hopefully you or somebody that you know will have a chance to get out and enjoy all that Fairfield has to offer and support shopping, rolling around, having a good time. This week also, I was at the Connecticut Economic Summit, which was over in Yale School of Business at New Haven. Governor Lamont, his economic development team, Commissioner Lehman, hosted this event. It was really more of a cheerleading type event. There was a session on entrepreneurship, small business development. There was a session on busting the myths in terms of Connecticut not being as tax or business friendly and some of the other things that are going on. So, you know, some good information comes out of it. It's really more of a networking event, a chance to celebrate successes and hopefully figure out what we're planning to do here. There will be some changes at the top at the ECD. Commissioner Lehman is stepping down.
Yes, okay.
And Alexandra Dahm, who's the deputy commissioner with whom I've worked, particularly at Fairfield Metro, is going to be the commissioner. We also have a change at the top of DOT too. So the deputy commissioner there, Garrett Euclido, formerly with OPM, I've worked with closely on Fairfield Metro and other projects, is going to both like good appointments, and we'll have a continued good working on both fronts. Speaking, this is pivoting to a bad topic, outdoor dining.
Oh, yeah.
So we had the public hearing on the 15th. I thought things were going pretty well. Those of you who may have tuned in.
I read the review.
And we had one member of the public, an attorney, who I think was being paid by somebody else who had an axe to grind. But he raised a host of issues, most of which had nothing to do with the topic at hand, but served the purpose of throwing a lot of spaghetti against the wall and confusing commission members as to what the real point was here. And at the end of the day, I think we have support, but you know, I was hoping that we would have unanimous support from the commission for most, if not all, of what we were proposing. At the end of the day, what I continue to go back to and emphasize to them was that even with the changes enacted, restaurants that were looking to establish a new or expand an existing facility would have to come before the commission, either as a compliance review or as a special permit application that requires a public hearing. So they'd have an opportunity to review each application on its own merits. So I really didn't understand why this was sparking so much consternation on the part of several commission members, but again, I thought we had answered the questions that they posed previously, came up with new questions, like talk to the Bike and Ped Committee, you talk to the Fairfield Senior Advocates. I mean, we can go on and on. I mean, so the planning and zoning staff talked me down off the ledge and said basically, you know, we got this. We can get the information that they're looking for. Don't go too far off the deep end here. So they did close the public hearing. They didn't make a decision. Still think, you know, we have support on the commission from the silent majority, if you will.
Right.
But again, I was, you know, I didn't want to create a situation where there's wasn't overwhelming support, because the last thing I want to do is then say, hey, we've changed these regs, you're encouraged to apply, and then they get the you know, 9th degree. They go to the commission, they beat them up with all kinds of different questions. So that really wouldn't serve our purpose very much at all. So hopefully, with the additional information that they requested, which the staff is working on, provide some information to them, they'll hopefully address their concerns and hope affirmatively, could push this to January. My point was, you don't want to wait till the last minute until things expire, and then people are like, well, what comes next? We don't have an answer to that. So that was the point of bringing it forward in the fall, so we'd have a new regime in place. We understand what the rules are in January. So, not as optimistic a report as I would have liked. Was a little taken aback by the questioning, but, hopefully, we will ultimately prevail. Happy to answer any questions. You can
I'm curious,
probably-
Mark, I just wonder what you think the driver was in like questioning it.
Other than there's always a fear of the unknown, there's an initial inertia that people don't want to change and do something different because they don't know what that might result in. And my point was, as much as we provide additional flexibility here, they still have an opportunity to review each and every application by an individual restaurant at that time. I don't really understand the level of concern. There are some folks that, when in doubt, they just ask for more information. I don't have enough information, I can't make it. And that's a default position. And I do think that the attorney that was there, who was the only member of the public who spoke, did a good job of just muddying up the waters enough. He literally had 20 questions, 20 issues or concerns that he raised and went down. And again, most of these had nothing to do with it or could easily be addressed. But his point was just to gum up the works, which he did. So
Effective.
good for him.
So my question is, if that was his intention at that meeting, will that not be his intention at the next meeting?
Well, the good thing was that they closed the hearing. So, I had the last word. I had an opportunity to rebut, and then they closed the hearing. There was one commission member that wanted to keep the hearing open, and the chair was like, no, I think we've heard enough. We don't need any more. We've had several hearings, and we have one person here. So he closed the hearing. So other than staff, which I am part of,
Okay.
I can respond or provide information to the public. So planning and zoning, Jim, Emmeline, they're taking the lead.
So good.
So I think, we'll get them the information they need. Wasn't, so they asked the bike ped committee says, as long as there's access on the sidewalks, we think it's a good idea. Fairfield Senior Advocates said it brings vibrancy, vitality to downtown. We like it. So they asked for clarification of the police chiefs. The police chief said, what I meant. We haven't had any issues with this. So I think they're working through the issue.
So then there doesn't need to be another public hearing?
No.
Oh, okay.
If for some reason we don't get the necessary votes this time and they reject it, I think we're done. We're done here.
Okay.
We tried, I made the point, the commission, we did it to just put it before the Planning and Zoning Commission so they could sit in judgment, right? But Planning and Zoning Commission can amend their regulations at any point in time. They don't have to wait for an outside party. So we were just trying to facilitate that conversation.
Well, let us know if there's any way we could help support it. It sounds like it's sort of run its course. I do know, embarrassingly enough, I do read the New York Post, but they had a big article on just like the land grab that restaurants are making in New York just for outdoor dining from the pandemic.
Yeah, that is part of the backdrop, Steve, but I think the one thing that's clear here is that's what we're talking about here.
Right, yeah.
We're not taking the public space. We're not going into the rights of way and saying, anything goes. You can take up parking spaces We did make a recommendation, you know, I was thinking of Metch and Noodle, for example, in the Brick Walk, that have, taken some spaces with the landlord's permission. It's on private property, it's not, and that hasn't really affected parking as a whole or circulation within the Brick Walk. All the businesses there seem to support it. And I said, well, you know, what's the harm? If they can show that there's adequate parking, adequate circulation, why can't the commission allow that to continue? Why do they have to put it away? And so that was the proposal we made, but that's different than like taking the street, you know, the public right away, or taking parking level, which is what's happening in some of the larger cities, including New Haven. So,
But we were very careful about that.
right,
You know,
there's really no opportunity
We
to
really
do
talked
that.
that through, and
Mhm.
we're very careful with that. How many people are on the commission and planning? and
There are 7.
Seven.
Yeah,
okay.
and they have alternates. So, you know, there's a solid core that I think are supportive of what we're proposing. You know, maybe some adjustments, and we knew that going in. But, you know, there are a couple vocal
Yeah.
members that want more information, so we'll do what we can to
Deliver.
make sure that they have the information they need to make an informed decision. So,
And the sunset is in March from the
it
state?
is in March, yeah.
Okay.
So the only other, there's a couple other things I want to bring to your attention. We have applied for this Connecticut Challenge Grant to replace a section of the East Trunk Sewer. We've asked for $5 million. It's roughly a $10 million project, so roughly half of what our current estimates are. God knows what put it out there, what it ends up actually costing.
Oh,
but-
20.
Right. But we've gotten a lot of feedback from the state on our application, and I've been told from other successful recipients in round 1 that that's a good sign. And they've said that in our conversations with them, as they've asked questions of us to clarify certain aspects of our application, they've indicated very excited, enthusiastic, supportive of what we're proposing. So again, positive sign. We don't have a grand announcement yet, but hopefully by the next couple of weeks, we'll hear back. We may not get the full $5 million, but, you know, anything, my point was, we have to do this work at some point, and,
Yeah.
$1 million is better than 0, right? So, at some point, this line has to be addressed. So, why not, you know, take it? So, hopefully I'll have some good news to report before the holidays. We have a couple upcoming, I guess I'll pivot to number 7, a couple upcoming, it's a pretty quiet month in terms of applications before our regulatory agencies. There is the continued public hearing on 90 High Street, which is a 40-unit residential development. That's inland wetlands, not really, you know, economic development in the traditional sense. There is going to be a public hearing coming up on the former Hyundai dealership, 2269 Post Road. I'm sure some of you have already heard about this. There is a veterinary hospital that has a boarding component,
Oh, yeah.
very high-end. He operates out of Greenwich and Stamford, I guess. If you look at the website, it's like pet spa. But the fact that he has a day and overnight boarding component requires a change to our zoning regulations and a public hearing. And whatever he's done in terms of outreach to the local neighbors has not been very effective, because there's been a lot of anxiety and consternation about the proposed use. And this hearing is likely to happen in January. I do expect it to be a fairly contentious public hearing. You know, I think the problem that I have, and I've said to the owner of the property, once perceptions have been formed, it's awfully hard to change people's opinions. I think perceptions on this particular use this particular applicant have been formed,
Hmm.
for better or for worse. But, you know, I don't know, now they're gonna try to do, additional outreach and open house and try to answer people's questions, but that may be too late, in my opinion. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm not expecting, you know, maybe they can tailor it. It's a big property, big building and big property, so, you know, maybe there's, the concerns that people have would be if you live next to a animal boarding facility,
Nice.
odor, noise, you know, that type of thing. And so maybe there's ways in which they can address those questions, people's satisfaction, but I'm not so sure at this point. So that's on the agenda. We did, while I was presenting the outdoor dining, we did have a concept review for proposed development at 81 Black Rock Turnpike, which is the property between the old Planet Fitness site and the train station. It's about a 5-acre site, brownfield site. It's been a issue for a long time, and I able to get Post Road Residential to make a proposal and enter into a purchase and sale agreement with the owner of the property. He lives in Florida. He's not been the easiest guy to deal with. But there are a lot of environmental issues there. He's proposing, this Post Road Residential, working with Beinfeld Architects, really good architectural firm, proposing a mixed-use development, heavy residential, like 250 residential units, structured parking, and, you know, some commercial space in the front. I thought the concept review went very well, so I guess based on that, they'll come back and refine what they heard from the commission and back with a formal application. But again, that's a positive thing, I think, because that site has languished for many years, and they'll need something fairly intensive to actually cover the cost of cleaning up the site. It was part of the Bullards Foundry, so there's quite a bit of contamination beneath the surface that they'll have to structure and engineer. And I've heard from the folks at Fairfield Metro, our developer, Accurate, who is planning to come back to the commission. They've started work on the first building. Not out of the ground yet, but they're moving dirt and putting in surface drainage and that type of thing. They have a building permit, but they're seeking some changes to the overall master plan. So they did submit some information to me that I've asked for just to take a look at development pro forma, because, you know, one of the things we've been pushing is, you know, the residential, higher density residential is better over in that area of town, but we do need to be mindful of other public policy goals, like how do we resolve, you know, our issues with housing. There's an opportunity here. So one of the things we've asked for from both Accurate and from Post Road Residential is, you know, currently we require you to set aside 12% of the units or 10% to 12% of the units. We'd like to see that closer to 15 to 20%, so that we're making some progress, so that we don't have the pressure that we face elsewhere in town. So that's out there. Again, I did have a meeting. Jen Anderson's not here today, but we did have a meeting between Fairfield U and the developer to talk about a hotel, demonstrate Fairfield U's interest in a hotel and demand for those hotel beds, try to measure that demand, and I've also reached out to Sacred Heart. Again, the idea is try to allay the developer's concern. There is actual real demand for a new hotel facility locally, and, you know, how to finance that. I'll stop there. I think that's pretty much it. The only other thing, I guess, was Stratfield, Pedestrian Improvements. We're doing our kickoff meeting today, so finally, we have a contractor. The project was fully funded, and but I would guess, given the late start date, that we're really talking about, you know, a lot of the work happening next kickoff meetings today. Happy to answer any questions or things that are on the commission members' mind on any of the topics I mentioned or something else.
And that was a good report. The only thing that popped into my head, and I don't know, is a very random thing, just reading about the success of the Fairfield U's new gym and, you know, for the basketball court and the hockey arena that's gonna be open up for Sacred Heart. I don't know if there's any tie-ins for promoting downtown dining or something like that. Just a
Yeah,
thought.
we've been working with Fairfield U. We do expect a table, to do some, tabling at, future Fairfield U basketball events to promote, shopping, dining, supporting local businesses, that connection. Fairfield U has been really supportive of these things, so we're,
They're great.
looking for any of those, connections. And I did reach out to, Mike Wyanozzi, who's the VP marketing up there at Sacred Heart, for the same purpose, to see, again, what can we do to further strengthen those ties? And then two, I think we've talked about, you know, having a meeting at both those facilities, so we can understand, we can see the facilities, which are impressive enough, but hopefully understand, you know, how they fit into the larger picture up there. And I'm trying to figure out how to manage that in a hybrid situation. We may not.
Yeah, that would, well, maybe just if we know in advance and we can plan.
Yeah, I think, you know, the hockey facility is supposed to open in mid-January, with the opener against Boston College, I believe, and, I don't know if anyone's got to see, Fairfield U's, new arena, but it's, very, very impressive.
Now, just what I've seen in the paper, it looks really fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So good assets, good additions to the town.
Connecticut's becoming the college hockey capital between Quinnipiac, UConn, Yale, and Sacred Heart, though, all doing really, really well.
Want to create a national, profile, that's one of the easiest paths to do so. Easier to do that than basketball, which is, crowded. Any other questions, from, those of you joining online, or?
Any further news on the brewery that's going into the Planet Fitness location?
Well, we continue to talk to them. They have really a decision to make, because it pretty much is, situation is what it is at this point. So we can't move the state any further in terms of the license, non-exclusive license agreements to use parking at Fairfield Metro. They'll provide a 5 to 10 year license agreement, but they want a 6-month early clause. And I've gone back to the incoming commissioner, and it is what it is. So I understand that, you know, if I was putting $5 million of my own money into it, I understand that's a little derby. I don't think it's likely, and they don't think it's likely that the state would ever exercise that in any fashion, but, you know, you want to have contingency plans in place. So we've talked to BJ's, and BJ's is planning to renovate their warehouse facility there and put in a fueling station.
Wow.
And believe it or not,
That street.
according to our zoning regulations, our parking requirements, they don't have enough parking.
Right now, really?
Oh,
That huge
currently.
parking lot
Which is crazy.
because it's huge.
It is huge.
And it's because of how we allocate space, so it's
Parking all the ways around back too, though. Is that even?
Right,
That,
it's
I mean,
absurd,
yeah.
it is totally absurd. So we'll fix it, but it'll probably take us, and I think we'll fix it when BJ's makes the application, which will be concurrent with a text amendment. I think that's the direction we're going, but it's a 175,000 square foot building, and the way we deal with parking is all that space is allocated to a use and has a parking number assigned to it. All that space, for the most part, is allocated as retail space, which is 4 or 5 per thousand. So it creates this huge parking demand, which is not ever gonna be realized. So on paper, they have
wow.
just barely enough parking, and really not enough to accommodate, taking out some of the parking to create this fueling station. In reality, we all know they have oodles of parking. So this will get squared away, but it'll take us probably 6 months to fix it. Just knowing how the process works, you gotta go to a public hearing and put the application together, put the public hearing together and all that. So, again, down the road, they'll have parking. They might be able to provide to illicit. And then there's some other facilities nearby that have similar circumstances that aren't as proximate, but they could make range. So the idea is, could they have contingency plans and you know, do the license with the state, but then have contingency plan A, B, and C? And is that enough to make you feel comfortable to make the $5 million investment?
Yeah.
And that's really, so we're at the point now where the principals have to make that call. And I've given them as much information as we can, but they have to. Now, I think they really love this location. I think it's gonna be a home run. I think it's gonna be a home run. But so that's where we're at.
So, do you know how many parking spaces they would actually have, assuming that all of these other contingencies never happened? Like, what would be available to them? Let's say they went ahead and built and did it, and then the state go ahead and enacted their retraction, and they were unable to use BJ's. How many would they actually have in their lot?
They have, roughly over 200 spaces in their lot,
Yeah.
which is more than enough to accommodate, most of their demand, with the exception of Friday and Saturday night, or major holidays when they're doing something. So it's really just their peak hours that they need overflow parking. And there are a lot of different ways they can manage that, both by providing satellite parking or valet parking, or even through a change, they've even talked about a change in their operating. The Friday, Saturday night, they typically have music, and they have a cover charge. So they've talked about changing their operating procedures, such that they would, maybe, waive the cover charge for those that are taking Ubers or Lyft or something like that, so they don't have a parking component to it. So there are things that they can do.
Okay.
But, you know, again, they have to make that call as to whether the costs outweigh the benefits outweigh the costs that are out there. So I think we'll hear, and part of it is
Can I get a holiday blend medium?
What's that? Oh, that's Bob.
That's
Are
it.
you ordering coffee for us? You're on, you maybe want to mute, Rob. So I think we'll hear, in the next, certainly by the first.
Okay.
Any
Just
other?
curious, just one curious on the, and I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm assuming that the BJ's is being assessed on like the gross space of the place. Is there any way to like net it out? Because they have so much stuff they probably have that is warehouse, that's not actual retail space where they're not having consumers in there. Would that limit the parking any? Smarter people than me must be looking at
We
that.
could probably, you know, I would argue that some of the space is warehouse space or storage space and probably has a lower parking demand. So that may help move the needle. But I think right now, BJ's wants to figure out what it wants to do, and before they start entertaining any proposals from other folks. But they are planning to do a fueling station out there, which, you know, will be in the back by the water tower, so it won't
But
be.
still coming out onto Brewster or Black Rock Turnpike.
It's gonna come out of Black Rock Turnpike, the
Yeah.
entrance.
Yeah,
So,
right where the entrance is.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very busy
It's a busy
wholesale
street,
club
yeah.
to begin with,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it's gonna generate much more traffic than what you're already. Maybe it's gonna spread it out a little bit more, because then there are people that are gonna be, but it's, you know, there are fueling stations only for BJ's members.
Right, that's true, yeah.
Right.
So that's all.
The former Fairfield movie theaters.
Yeah, that's there too.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, you know, at one point I thought maybe BJ's was taking that space, but it didn't sound like. We talked- Nothing, we've had a couple different people kicking the tires on that, but, nothing exciting. Nothing very exciting.
Okay.
Oh, God. And Sally's, is it open? It looks like
Sally's is
people
supposed to be
were in
opening
there.
today.
Is
Oh,
there
today.
gonna be a grand opening for that, or?
Well, we have reached out to them, but we always suggest for restaurants
Go off.
that we do it probably a month after their
I have to get their
opening.
thoughts together, right?
You know, there's enough buzz already generated with this.
Sure.
from
But
the
today you
first
can
meeting.
order pizza from
I
them?
think today's the day.
All right,
so-
that's good.
Beverly, do you have anything that you wanted to?
Just to share that, we're working on our economic, outlook breakfast. As we know, M&T acquired Peoples, and so I was on the phone over the last couple of days to try and come up with a date. So M&T will now be, you know, the lead on this and the sponsor on this. And, in my conversations yesterday, they also have a chief economist, who's going to actually be speaking at Garrett's, meeting coming up, his regional one. I may scoot down there and take a look at that, but, so we're looking for a date on that. I'd like to keep it in January, toward the end of January. We'll hold it up at Brookline Country Club. So, so that's what we're working on right now. And this is always, you know, after the new year, it's good to hear from an economist. What does the world look like? What does the national economy look like? Brenda comes in, she speaks, she'll talk about the state and Fairfield, and Mark is always there to answer any questions. But it's always an important, breakfast and event for our local business community. So as soon as I have a date on that, I'll let Mark know and he can share with the commission.
Cool. Anything else, Mr. Chair? Acting Chair?
I think we're good.
Good? Alan, Justin? Those in the room?
No?
All right. Well, I hope everyone has a very nice holiday. If I don't see you before then, so holidays all.
Forward to seeing everyone in January in person, COVID
We'll
willing.
see you in January, and maybe we'll, try to do that at Fairfield U, we'll see, together, so, thanks all.
All right, thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Adjourned at 9:18.